Hey there, this is Darren, the unexpected God wink. All right, do you have ever a time where you're working really hard at what you do, you enjoy what you do, however, you're quite not quite sure if you're on the right path or not? And my friend Stacy Campanelli introduced me to the idea of God winks, almost like God knows what he's doing, God's connected to you, you're good. And so here's the situation. Put a lot of time and energy and effort into our podcast, and sometimes it doesn't directly relate into business, but it's a lot of effort, it's a big commitment. So a couple days ago, literally 2 days ago, Mark and I had to record another podcast, our unforgettable, let me see if I can find it here, our Unforgettable Presentations podcast. Hopefully you can hear me, I know I'm live. The Unforgettable Presentations podcast. So where each week we got to come out with new content. And I was praying about it. I was literally praying about it. And a text came in. I didn't look to see who it was. Later realized it was Mark texting me. He hadn't got the link for our recording that day. And while I was praying, sometimes I get inspired thoughts while I'm praying about literally what I should be doing that day or what I should work on or adjustments I should make. So I'm praying about it, and the idea comes up to do a podcast about the 77-day challenge. So it's really working well. There's a lot of people out there doing it. It's helping people. It's growing. So I was like, why not talk about it on the podcast? So we called it We Double Dog Dare You. So he thought it was a good idea. We get on on Zoom a couple hours later, and we're recording the podcast. And in the middle of the podcast, I kid you not, in the middle of the podcast, Mark shows this picture, black and white picture of him 50 years ago when he's standing next to his big brother and he's on his tiptoes trying to stretch to be as tall as his big brother. I had never seen it, and I known him for 20 years, and it was a great example of stretching yourself. So we used it as, if you take the video challenge, this will stretch you. And I was telling people on the podcast, if you go and listen to it, you'll hear it happen. So in the middle of the podcast, I say, hey, Mark, we'll show this on the YouTube version. So we have our podcast is in all the different podcast formats, but we also record the video and we put it on YouTube as well. So we call it repackage, repurpose. It's reaching two different audiences, two different format, same amount of time to create the content. So I say, hey, Mark, if people are listening to this, they should go check out this picture, because you can't see it on audio, obviously, on the YouTube version of this episode. Mark, what episode number are we on? So we can tell people, go search up this episode. And Mark's looking, he's like, it's episode number 77. What? That's crazy. I normally would plan something like that. I didn't plan this one, and it was So if you check out the podcast, you'll actually hear the moment happening. Episode 77, I prayed about it, and we were talking about the 77-day video challenge. So if you look at the title, it's called We Double Dog Dare You. But halfway through, or three-quarters of the way through it, that moment just happened, and it's part of the podcast. But it was really cool just knowing, it's almost like that feeling of, God saying, hey, you're on the right path. You're doing the right thing. I see you doing this energy and effort, and maybe it's not paying off financially, but it's helping people. And like, we got the God wink, and it was just a really cool moment. So in your life, are you praying? Are you asking for help? Are you asking for God winks to God? Just let me know we're on the right path. We're doing the right thing. So notice it, because I could have just dismissed this as, oh, wow, what a cool coincidence. I don't think it was coincidence. I don't think there are any coincidence. So it was a really cool moment, but I hope you honor the God winks that you get. Even if you're not a believer, maybe it is true, but ask. But then the most important thing is to listen. And when you get them, honor them and receive them, however you do with your own beliefs. See you tomorrow.